Ζούμε, όπως αντιλαμβάνεστε παιδιά, έσχατες ημέρες, και η αποστασία που αναφέρεται από τον Απόστολο Παύλο στην προς Θεσσαλονικής επιστολή του και που είναι συνώνυμη με την αθεία, είναι επιθύρες, είναι μπροστά μας, είναι γραμμένο. Η προφητεία δεν αφαιτείται ότι η ανθρωπότητα θα οδηγηθεί στην μεγάλη αποστασία που σας είπα προηγουμένως, ότι η αθεία είναι φορέας της.
It's very easy to be an atheist when you have done all of that. Man can sit back and say, I don't need God. What is God? But it's very difficult to be an atheist when you're laying on your deathbed, because you begin to think, what if these people are right? See, there'd been one man by the name of Ron Short that has stood between me and the gates of hell. One man that had witnessed to me about the love of Jesus for 5 years before I became ill. One man. And, you know, I would debate him, and I liked him because he did what he said he was going to do. I mean, he was the only one that I saw that professed to be Christian that lived what he said he was going to do. And so I really respected him. I didn't believe what he said, but I respected him. But when I'm laying on my deathbed and knowing that I'm going to die, guess who I thought about? I thought about, what if Ron is right? What if there is a heaven and a hell? And so the most immediately, the most pressing thought in my mind is, how do I get saved? What is saved? What is saved? How do I get saved? And so I sent them for Ron Short. I wanted him to come down because I wanted him to do what he had to do. I had no idea. How can a man hanging on a tree in Israel 2,000 years ago, what is that to me? But I knew that he had something that I had to have. And that night, see, I had him go for Ron, but Ron wasn't home. Ron was in Alabama. And so I had him go and send for Ron. And that night was the longest night that I've ever had in my entire life, before or since. And that night is, as I would be laying there in bed, as I'm laying there in bed, I would begin to fade away. I would begin to fade away, and as I would fade away, I would begin to go down. Now, it was like darkness. It was so dark. It was like the very darkness just penetrated into your very, very being. And as I left, and I can tell you I left my body, because I remember when I came back into my body. You know, I don't know where I was out of my body. Now, there are people that talk about a light. There are people that talk about floating above. There are people that talk about a feeling of warmth and love. I didn't feel any of that. I felt none of that. I felt untold terror. Untold terror.
He went into...
Because I knew that if I ever went all the way, if I slipped all the way, I would never get back. Now, in my beings of beings, I knew that. And so I fought all night long. They told me later on, I not only pulled the mattress cover off of the mattress, I pulled the mattress up on me because I had to stay. I had to wait. I had to wait till Ron got there. Whatever he had to do, I had to wait. But I would, again, and then I would leave, and I would be going down like a deep, deep, dark terror. Now, my skin began to get cold. Now, it's not like cold when you walk out into the air. It's like bone chilling cold in my lower extremities. And you can feel the coldness begin to come up the legs. And again, I would begin to leave. Now, and I would be in that darkness, and I'd be in that void. And I remember one time entering back in my body, because when I entered my body, it was like, just like that. I felt my body thud. My physical body thud when I entered back in. Now, Believe me, that is the most horrifying, terrifying experience that I've ever encountered. And I fought all night long. And the next morning, somewhere 9:30, 10 o'clock, in came Ron. And Ron came in and he says, Dr. Whitaker, what do they say is your chances? I said, Ron, they tell me I have none. He says, now's the time.
Thomas Hobbes, an atheist who's considered to be one of the founders of modern political philosophy, said on his deathbed, I say again, if I had the whole world at my disposal, I would give it to live one day. I am about to take a leap into the dark. The French king, Charles IX, gave the order for the massacre of the French Huguenots, in which 15,000 souls were slaughtered in Paris alone, and 100,000 in other sections of France for no reason other than they loved Christ. The guilty king suffered miserably for years after that event. He finally died, bathed in blood bursting from his veins. To his physicians, he said in his last hours, asleep or awake, I see the mangled forms of the Huguenots passing before me. They drop with blood. They point at their open wounds. Oh, that I had spared at least the little infants at the bosom. What blood! I know not where I am. How will all this end? What shall I do? I'm lost forever. I know it. I have done wrong. My father died a difficult and terrible death. God grants an easy death only to the just. At what seemed the very last moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and cast a glance over everyone in the room. It was a terrible glance, insane, or perhaps angry. His left hand was raised, as though he were pointing to something above and bringing down a curse on us all. The gesture was full of menace. The next moment he was dead.
Εκείνο που έχει αξία στην προφητεία και οφείλει έτσι να είναι ότι δεν πρέπει η προφητεία να βρει πραγμάτωση σε εκείνους τους ανθρώπους, στους πιστούς δηλαδή, που κατανοούν αυτό το μυστήριο της αθείας αποστασίας.
Francis Newport, head of the English Atheist Club, the head of the Atheist Club, to those gathered around his deathbed, said this, you need not tell me there is no God, for I know there is one, and that I am in his presence. Whoa. The head of the Atheist Club. Head of an English Atheist Club. You need not tell me there is no God, for I know there is one, and that I am in his presence. You need not tell me there is no hell. I feel myself already slipping. Wretches, cease your idle talk about there being hope for me. I know I am lost forever. Oh, that fire. Oh, the insufferable pangs of hell. Oh, that I could lie for 1,000 years upon the fire that is never quenched, to purchase the favor of God and be united to him again. But it is a fruitless wish. Millions and millions of years will bring me no nearer the end of my torments than one poor hour. Oh, eternity, eternity, forever and ever. Oh, the insufferable pangs of hell.
You know, it's a little bit off subject, but the same kind of principle. I heard that, and I won't mention his name, but it was a big leader and founder of a huge satanic organization. And he was on his deathbed, and for a Satanist at the time of death, it's a great victory for them, because death is a huge thing that they celebrate. And he was getting ready to die and pass on his powers and that. And on his deathbed, he must have got some revelation or an angelic appearance or something. And he went into shock and he said, "Oh my. Oh my, what have I done?" He said, "There's something very wrong. There's something very wrong. There's something very wrong."
Wow.
And his whole life had been spent propagating these satanic beliefs, getting everyone to believe, establishing official organizations for Satanism. And then at the end of his life, he gets this light that comes to him, and everything that he built, he realized was wrong.
Παιδιά, με ακούτε? Παιδιά, με ακούτε? Μην βγείτε, μεγαλώσετε, βγείτε στη ζωή σας και πείτε κι εσείς κι εγώ στον χώρο της αθείας. Παιδιά, με ακούτε?
Deathbed. Stay with me, for God's sake. I cannot bear to be left alone. Oh Lord, help me. "Oh God, what have I done to suffer so much? What will become of me hereafter? I would give worlds if I had them, that the age of reason had never been published. Oh Lord, help me. Christ, help me. No, don't leave. Stay with me. Send even a child to stay with me, for I am on the edge of hell, here alone. If ever the devil had an agent, I have been that one, on his deathbed." Renowned atheist Thomas Paine, Sir Thomas Scott, Chancellor of England, on his deathbed, "Until this moment, I thought there was neither God nor a hell. Now I know and feel that there are both, and I am doomed to perdition by the just judgment of the Almighty." Voltaire, famous anti-Christian atheist, "I have swallowed nothing but smoke. I have intoxicated myself with the incense that turned my head. I am abandoned by God and man." He said this to his physician, and the doctor said, "I will give you half of what I am worth, if you will give me 6 months of life," is what he told his doctor. When he was told this was not possible, he said, "Then I shall die and go to hell." His nurse said, "For all the money in Europe, I wouldn't want to see another unbeliever die." All night long, he cried for forgiveness.
I had a 20-year-old kid, gang member who was dying of primary liver cancer. Super unusual, aggressive and terminal. He was angry at the universe. His family was there to comfort him, but he literally spit in their faces. Every ounce of energy he had left was angry and mean and ugly. His last days, hours, moments, he was angry. The family called me into his room and told me they thought he was going. His lovely mother, in her dearest attempt, whispered to him to go toward the light. With his dying breath, he opened his eyes, looked at her and said, "F your Jesus." A second or two later, he slowly turned his head to the left and got the most horrific look in his face, as if he were looking at something we couldn't see, and horrified like in a bad movie. His face contorted and he screamed with his last breath, his eyes wide. "Oh shit, oh shit, oh no." Then he made a guttural noise and promptly fell back into the bed and died. Every family member was shaking and too frightened to speak. I left the room and took 2 days off. I don't care if I never found out what he saw.
Αλλά εδώ έχουμε διαχρονικά πράγματα. Μείνετε σταθεροί εις τον Ιησούν Χριστόν, ό,τι κι αν πει ο κόσμος. Κι αν ακόμα δεν σας χειροκροτήσει κάποια μέρα ο κόσμος, μη σας νοιάζει. Θα σας χειροκροτήσει ο ουρανός.